Hello and welcome to Not Made in China, the podcast sharing unfiltered conversations about adoption and the beautiful madness that comes with it. I'm your host, Shaosheen, and today I'm joined by Anna, a Chinese adoptee who grew up in a Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints family. We explore how identity, faith, and adoption intersect over time, as well as talking about what it was like growing up adopted, the messages she received around gratitude and belonging, and how her feelings around adoption and her Chinese identity have evolved. We also get into the realities behind common misconceptions, the impact of microaggressions, and delve into some of the, quite frankly, wild comments she's received on social media in response to her sharing her adoption story. As always, we have a lot to chat about, so let's jump into it, and I hope you enjoy eavesdropping on our conversation. Anna, thank you so much for joining me, and welcome to Not Made in China.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to be here. I love the title. I think you're incredible. It's great.
Oh, that's so sweet of you. And to start with, I'd love it if you could tell us where you were adopted from and perhaps where you grew up.
Yes, so I was adopted from Wuxi, China, near Shanghai in the Jiangsu province. And then I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Amazing. And as you were growing up, were there many other Chinese people around you, or was it a predominantly white area?
Good question. So, yes and yes. It is predominantly white, but there were like a handful of other Asian people. I actually grew up with two other like Chinese adoptees, which was really fun. And then there was like a Chinese community, but I wasn't like surrounded by them. Like if I wanted to be there, I could be there, but I was mostly with white people.
In your family and with your parents, was culture and sort of the Chinese side of yourself, was that discussed much?
A bit. So growing up, my parents, like right when I came from China, they had okay, wait. Bio of my family. My parents had two sons, a daughter biologically, and then they adopted my sister from China. She's from Guangdong area, Hong Kong area, and then 2 years, 3 years later, they adopted me. So they had two of us, and when I came to the family, I was like two-ish. They started Chinese lessons early on, and so they did that for a couple years, and then they stopped. Um, and then we would like talk about things. We never really celebrated like any holidays or anything. We didn't do any like traditional Chinese things, but they would do like the very visible like eat Chinese food sometimes or wear like Chinese clothes or say we can pretend to speak Chinese. So, yes.
Now you're an adult, are you glad that they made the effort to maintain those connections while you were younger?
Yes, and I almost wish that they were stronger.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of it was surface level, and then a lot of it as I got older, which I guess I am grateful for and not grateful for, was very self-directed. And so sometimes I felt like it was like only I care about this, even though they cared, maybe. I just don't know. Do you know what I mean? So it was good,
Yeah,
and I like the freedom of expression, but it also felt like, oh, I would love more scaffolding or support in
of
this way.
course. That's so understandable. And do you feel perhaps, of course, the efforts they made were commendable and it's great they did, but perhaps they were presenting connections that they saw through an American lens as opposed to connections that ran deeper and that you would have had it been sort of Chinese parents living in China?
Yes, that was so well said.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
That's interesting. And you said you had to kind of self-navigate a lot of the cultural connections as you've got older. What kind of things have you done?
Thank you. Good question. I have done a lot. I'm religious. I'm LDS, or a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and we serve missions for our church. And part of that, I got called to serve in Taiwan, but COVID hit, so I went to another area in the United States. But they have you practice and learn Mandarin for 9 weeks with a lot of other young adults. It was incredible. Yeah, so I did. So like I studied in high school, but that was my like, okay, I'm like seriously studying this language now. And so I studied it, and did a lot more with like meeting people, meeting Chinese people, talking to them about Christ. And it was really like such like a life-changing experience. And I realized like I really want this in my life. And so I came home. You serve like as a diplomat. You serve for 18 months. And so after 18 months, I came home and I went to college and I started studying and I got a minor. I just graduated in April, this past April. But
Congratulations.
thank you, I got my minor in Mandarin. And so I studied forever. And then I also was president of like the Chinese club at my university for a couple of years. And I went to like a church community, like my ward for a couple of years, and they all spoke Mandarin and it was like an Asian area. And so I really tried to like ingrain myself with Asian people, speak the language, and like be Chinese, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. I think it's amazing that you can start with learning language for your mission and then that evolves into so many other things. And it's almost an unlikely connection because you kind of assume, oh, growing up as a Chinese adoptee, the language learning would come from maybe your parents pushing you to go to lessons, and you might not necessarily think the church would provide that link.
No, I think it's definitely incredible. I think one thing is that we believe like a lot in like revelation and that we are going like right, we have someone who assigns these to us. I think the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints does a really really good job of training people. And so I actually taught, it's called the Missionary Training Center, and I actually taught there for 2 years to other missionaries to learn Mandarin. And there's like hundreds of languages that they teach because they really want people to be immersed and to understand and to like feel love. And it's not all about converting. I think some places and some people, of course, individually feel that, but mostly it's about helping people feel loved and helping them feel seen in their own language and in their own culture. And so that was really, really cool for me. But within that and in my own classes, I did feel like a higher standard from my teachers and a higher standard from anyone that I met. My teachers would always be like, "Oh, you got this. Like you can say this." And I already was like high achieving. I tried to fit right the model minority stereotypes, which is maybe not great. And so I would try really hard, but I think it was maybe not taken as like I am trying as hard as my other fellow like companions or missionaries, that like my effort is like, oh yeah, she just knows this. And I experienced that in school too, where teachers would be like, oh yeah, here, like try this harder thing or do this extra thing because you should already have a handle on this, without understanding like, oh no, I'm also a second language learner. This is not native. My parents do not speak at home. And so I feel like I need to put in double the effort, which is fine. Like I enjoyed it. But I think there is a prevailing narrative that like Asian people speak and should speak their language. And then when I was with Chinese people, or I like lived in Taiwan for a little bit, all the time people would just like, if I was with me, it was me and then a white person, people would always look at me and expect me to be able to speak, even if my white friend could like speak way better. And it was like, you need to be speaking. And it felt a little bit intimidating and a little bit like imposter syndrome because I didn't know, I don't speak at that point. I didn't speak as well as I wanted to or as well as I could. And so I felt like maybe I was disappointing people or disappointing like other Asians when I couldn't like speak as much as I wanted. So good and the hard, like the nuance.
Yeah. I mean, it does sound really challenging because, as you said, it's great to be able to kind of go above and beyond for your sake, so you can really push yourself. But then when that assumption is put on you that you're going to be great at it just because of your race, even though you don't have the background, that must be frustrating when you're putting in so much hard work, just as much, if not more than anyone else. But then part of that almost goes, and correct me if I'm wrong, but part of that almost goes unseen because of how you look. And that's so unfair.
Yeah, it's very unfair.
It really
You're right.
is. But I have so much respect for you for learning the language. It's not an easy one to master. So props to you. That's so impressive.
You. It's a beautiful language. I'm so grateful to learn it.
It really is. And it's such a wonderful tie to have to your culture, and really make you feel rooted in that sort of Chinese part of yourself.
Yeah, I feel like the main reason I wanted to learn, I had a friend, one of my friends growing up, right, who was adopted. She found her birth parents when she was in high school.
Wow.
But, like, there's always this idea of, like, I don't know for you, but for me, there's always been this idea of finding my birth parents. Like, I have always had this strong, strong desire to find them. And my sister who's adopted, this is common, right? Adoptees have different experiences. But my sister who's adopted never really wanted to find her birth parents. But for me, I really wanted to. And then I, like, heard my friend found her birth parents, and there was a translator and there was a language barrier. And so I just felt so motivated to study because I want to speak with my birth parents
Mm.
like in their language and understand them in the way that they speak, and so that there's nothing missing. And like, yeah, I'll probably still have a translator there, but overall I really want to understand, and I really want to know and to feel what they're saying, instead of like going through someone and not understanding because I did not become competent in their language.
Absolutely. I think it's incredible that you are going to do that, and I really wish you the best on your journey to hopefully
Thank
finding them
you.
one day. And can I ask, so when you do want to find them, what are you hoping to get out of it, or what's the motivation behind it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I thought about this a lot. There's a couple things. I feel like, one, I just would love to see someone who looks like me. I think, especially here in Utah, there's a lot of families and a lot of people who have like a lot of kids and they all look like them. And it is
Mm,
so shocking to me every time that like someone looks like their mom or someone looks like their dad. And so that's the first thing I'd want to get out. It's like actually feel like there's someone in the world who looks like me. I think the adoptee experience in general is very isolating and very lonely. And so to know that there's someone out there who looks like you is great. And it's great to have your own children, but that's like, we don't know what when that will happen, or when I find my birth parents. Either way, it'll just take a while. But I think there's a lot of comfort in knowing that. So first thing, and then second thing, I just love to have like to know that they're okay, and for
yeah.
them to know that I'm okay, and that it's like okay. I've studied a lot. I study in my master's program about adoption, and my advisor does a lot about birth parents. And so I've heard like countless stories of birth parents and what they go through, and it's so hard.
Mm.
I cannot believe what what a lot of birth mothers go through to place their children for adoption. And so I'd really love to understand my birth mother's story and her perspective, and my birth father's story, and to not forget him. I think birth fathers are often taken out of the picture, and so to know both. Um, and then I'd really love my medical history. So, yes.
That's so understandable. And I think it's so commendable how you have the maturity and empathy to be able to really consider how your birth parents must have felt. Because as you said, so much of the time, the birth mother, let alone the birth father, get completely cut out the picture. And the story only really starts once you've either been abandoned or once you've been adopted. So I think it's so amazing that you have that perspective. And I'm sure wherever they are in the world, they'll be so thankful you have that. Because I'm sure any birth parent who's had to relinquish their child, that's exactly what I think they'd hope that their child would believe, because it must be such a heart-wrenching decision to have to give up your child, or sometimes it's not even your choice, it's taken out of your hands. So yeah, I can't begin to imagine how painful that must be.
Yeah, me either. I think like one thing a narrative I've really heard a lot is sometimes adoptive children will feel really bad that their birth parents don't reach out. And I think that is so painful, and I think that is really hard. And I also think on their side, like, right, holding two truths at the same time. But that birth parents probably feel so much pressure and so much like, what if I reach out? What if they don't want me? Like, they are living their lives and they are happy. And if I come in here, I am going to destroy it. And so I think there's so much thought on both sides, and it's so hard to navigate. And especially when there's not open communication, it's just hard to know, like, how does this person feel? And maybe they're not doing it because they think that, like, maybe they're not doing it because they hate me, like a birth parent isn't reaching out because they hate me, but maybe it's because they love me so much and they don't want to mess anything up
Mm.
in the ways that it's happening, and they don't know how to overcome that, and you have to communicate, and it's really hard. So
Yeah.
I just think there's two narratives and
Yeah,
you got to be aware of both.
absolutely, multiple things can be true at once. And kind of going back to when you were younger, do you have any early memories of, and this might sound really strange, but just being aware that you were Chinese, and how did you feel about that?
Oh yeah, all the time. All the time. I know I said at the beginning there were a lot of Asian people, not a lot, but there were some Asian people, but I was very aware that I was different, and I was very aware that I was Chinese. Like, I my parents would, like I said, they do small things. So they'd like have cheap house or little outfits, anything Chinese. They'd be like, Anna, it's Chinese. Go look at it. Let's talk about it. Like, let's see it. And so I like very much knew. And I think this is like less about me being an adoptee, an Asian adoptee, but I also, personality wise, was very different from all my siblings.
Interesting.
And so I think that that just further exacerbated like my feeling of being different and knowing that I'm different. And then my siblings, my oldest brothers are like 9.5 years apart from me, and then my sister 8.5, and then my adopted sister were like 2.5 years apart. But I also felt like I lived in my own world almost. And so, um, yeah. So I felt like I have a different personality. I look different. I'm reminded that I look different. I want to learn Mandarin. I want to find my birth family. Like, that is different from even my own sister who's adopted. And so, um, yeah, I feel like I constantly knew. And in school, I would always know. And especially in like middle school, high school, when I started studying Mandarin, I would be singled out. But I don't think there was a moment when I was ever not aware that I was Chinese.
It makes complete sense. And it's interesting what you say about feeling like you're living in your own world. Is that in the sense of you have all these experiences and, of course, you have your personality and your interests? And did you just feel like no one else could really relate to that because they were so vastly different and had very different reference points?
Yes, I think so. I think you put that really well. I really did feel like, I think every kid thinks, right? Like their point of view is like the only point of view. But even as I got older, I really felt like I am different. And I even went to like a different high school than all my siblings and a different college than all my siblings. Like everyone went to the same everything except me. And so, generally, for a long time. Um, and so, yeah, I felt like I maybe didn't relate. And then this wasn't until like the last 2 years of my life. Last 2 years, I've done a lot of work to understand myself, to understand adoption, to understand trauma, to understand like all of this stuff. But before that, I didn't really talk about adoption. Like I would say, right, like the spiel of like, I'm adopted and like these are my parents and this is how this works, but like nothing beyond that. But now looking back, like, oh yeah, I knew I was different, but like there was not room to really talk about it or to say like this is hard or this is negative. And so I've done a lot of work the past 2 years on myself to say, oh yeah, these were really painful parts. I I feel really upset with my adoptive parents. I feel really hurt with my like family of, it's not really my family of origin, my family of adopted origin. Anyway, that family. And then to come out of it and to be like it's not their fault. They tried, but also they have things to work on and I have things to work on. But I really didn't realize that until I started college and I was like independent on my own. But before that, I think I knew I was different, but I never like expressed it, and I never expressed that it was hard or like talked about the things that were happening to me.
That sounds really challenging because growing up, and I mean, it's one thing navigating identity and belonging just anyway, let alone when you're doing it in a space where people might not be able to relate to you. And when you say you didn't feel like you had the space to be able to talk about that openly, is that because you feel like people wouldn't understand, or do you feel like that might be met with negative emotions? I'd love to know a bit more about that.
Yeah, I think I'm like, how do I put this in the kindest way? My parents, in my church, we have a very strong belief that we like view people and we treat people with kindness even if they're unkind to us. And my parents promoted that a lot, that we love everyone even if they're mean to us. Right, like love your enemies, like all these things. But I think growing up, I felt that people my age, like, and girls my age, for a long time, I felt like they excluded me because I was different, because I looked different and I liked different things. But from my parents' mindset, I don't think they understood, for me, that it felt like it was about me. and it was about what I looked like. I think for them, they saw it as, oh, they're little girls who just like all are the same, and sometimes they don't like each other. And so they would continuously encourage me to keep reaching out and to keep trying and to keep loving and to keep forgiving and to keep etc., without understanding like the underlying context of, I feel like it's because of how I look, and I feel like it's because I'm different. And so instead, I felt like maybe I didn't get as much um like support in that way, and enough like empathy of like, I am experiencing something beyond just like kid on kid
Yeah.
dislike. And so I think from those early experiences, I learned that like if I have anything, like I will be treated like this is a normal situation when it's not. Like this is a layered, nuanced situation that means more and like has more feeling than they can ever comprehend, because they've never been adopted and they don't get it and they don't understand, right, being
Yeah.
Asian in a white community. And so yeah, I think it's because of that precedence that I was like, oh, I don't share this, I don't talk about this, because they don't get it.
It sounds like a really challenging thing to navigate because on one hand, of course, you love your parents and you know they want to do the best for you. And of course, if this is the message the church is giving, it comes from such a good place because it is rooted in kindness. However, when the message is also coming from people who aren't people of colour necessarily, or some of them might be, but I appreciate in your parents' case, they might not be. And they don't know what it's like to be you and be in a situation where if you are being treated differently, and especially as a child, you can't, the only thing you really know is, well, I look different. So it must be that. And even if it's not, it doesn't matter if it is or it isn't, but it's how it looks to you. And it must have been really, really challenging and really difficult to not be able to express that or not have that understood. I'm sorry you went through that.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm like realizing I'm feeling so emotional about it. I think I've never expressed it in that way, and so I feel very yeah, very like, wow.
Oh,
Thank you.
no, don't. Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate it. And also, there's nothing worse than just feeling left out.
Yes, it's the worst.
It's so, yeah, it sucks. And yeah, when you are a person of colour and children treat you differently, it's the only thing you can really, you assume it's that because you think, well, I look like, well, I don't, sorry, I'm like everyone else. I like the same things, but the only thing is I look different. And then if people, whether it's parents, teachers, or anyone, turns around and goes, oh no, it's just kids being kids, like, you should continue hanging out with them. But then every time you hang out with them, it just pokes at that wound. It can be really damaging and can be really hurtful.
Yeah, yes. And I think also along with this, like, adoptive parents are taught maybe that, like, you need to treat your child like every other child. And so I heard a lot growing up. Like, we don't see you as different. We see you as our child. We see you as like looking the same, being the same. Like, we don't think about your race. We don't think about any of these things. And like, I think there are helpful things in that, and there are also harmful things in that.
Yeah.
But like, parents aren't told that there's harmful things in that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's maybe a social worker's responsibility, and other people's responsibility in the community to say like, oh yeah, you can't tell your child of color that, because they're gonna feel like they are different and they don't know why you are telling them they're not different when like the world treats them like they're different. And so I think a lot of it has to do with like, oh yeah, there's this like mixed message of like, you are not different from parents, and then the lived experience of, no, people really do treat you different.
And it's so conflicting and so confusing as a child, I can imagine. It's, yeah, as you say, you're being told nothing's different, but then the world's telling you the complete opposite message. And I think it is that misconception where people say, oh, you should treat your adopted child like a biological child. And I think, yeah, you can absolutely love them the same way and show them the same care and attention. Absolutely. But you also can't get around that the first thing anyone sees is race. You just can't get around that. And whether we like it or not, we're Chinese and we look different, and that has to be taken into account. Like, sorry, it is what it is. And yeah, there's no way around it. And it's so, again, I can't speak for anyone else, but it just must be so challenging when you're being told, no, but it's this, you're the same, you're the same, you're the same. And then as a kid, you're having all these confusing feelings, but why am I being treated differently? Why are people making certain comments towards me? But then you think, oh, but I am the same. So maybe it's me. Maybe I'm making a fuss of this. Maybe I should just push it down and not talk about it. And I don't know if you, if you felt like that at all.
I'm
I
like,
can see you
yes,
nodding.
yes, yeah.
I think I'm very much on the same page as you, where I think that it's so okay and it's really important to let yourself feel whatever you need to feel about adoption. And also to remember that it's not about parent shaming. It's not about saying, I might feel angry about my adoption, or I might be feeling grief or loss or any negative or complex emotion. Just because I've expressed that doesn't take away from the love I have for my parents, my family, the things I have. Those two things can be true at once.
Yeah, no, I agree. I listened to a lot of adoption books and narratives and guides, etc. for my work. And so there's one by, I just looked up her name, Julia Ryan McGew. She wrote Twice a Daughter, but she also wrote another like helpful guide about adoptees. And one line really stuck out to me, but she asked the question like, what makes an ideal adoptee? Like, is an ideal adoptee someone who is quiet and doesn't talk about any trauma, about any pain, and just like goes on and is silent and lives their life? Or is an ideal adoptee someone who is like, this is actually a little messed up, a little unnatural, right? Like, it's not normal to do that. And like wrestles with that and struggles with that. Like, is that more ideal because they're understanding like the feeling and the humanity and the humanness behind being an adoptee, or is it that you're complacent and that you're silent the whole time? And so I've thought about that a lot, and like what society thinks is ideal, what I think is ideal, what adoptees feel is ideal. And I think it's different for everyone, but I do believe that it is not just being complacent. I don't feel like that's maybe ideal.
I 100% agree with you. I think my ideal would certainly be the one you said, and to be able to have the freedom to express what you need to express. But then I suppose to have that ideal, you also then need to have, in inverted commas, ideal parents who are willing to make space for the ideal adoptee and allow them to
Yes.
express those negative feelings if they want to, and have the maturity and strength, I guess, to know that any negative feelings they do express are not personal jabs at them and not criticism of them. It's just them saying, this really big traumatic thing happened to me that was out of my control when I was a baby, and I'm just trying to talk about it. It's nothing to do with what's happened afterwards. It's nothing to do with that at all. I'm just saying this really hard thing happened and I'm just trying to process it. So please just give me the space to process it.
Yes, period.
But it's such an interesting quote. And remind me of the name of the book again. I'll jot that down.
Oh, yes. She's written a book called Twice a Daughter.
Twice a Daughter.
And then it's called Belonging Matters.
Amazing.
Conversations on Adoption, Family,
Amazing.
and Kinship.
Well, thank you. And I'd also love to know, I know we touched on it briefly, but I'd love to know a bit about how faith might have shaped your views on adoption and identity.
Yeah, it's a mixed relationship. So I think this is hard. For a lot of religious communities, adoption is a huge thing, right? Right? Adoption into, I don't know your religion. So I won't assume that you know anything.
No, you're fine. So I don't really know much, so I don't practice a religion actively.
Okay,
so
good.
Tell me everything.
Good, I'll explain it then. So a lot of religion, like Christian religions, focus on adoption into the community. And I think it's like you can be we call it adopted into the covenant, which just means like we make promises with God, our covenants, and with that covenant you're given special blessings and special privileges. And if you're not already a member or in it, then you can be adopted in. And we do, actually, this is really cool, but we have like temples where we make these promises with God, like just special spaces away from the world where we can like make promises with God and include people. And so when I was really little, my parents, right, are active members of this church, and they adopted my sister, and then got sealed to her, or she got sealed to them, so that she is now in this covenant or in this like promised blessing. And I did that too, which is so beautiful. And I think it is an incredible way, like even if it's like real or not real, like it is just another way to be connected to my family and to feel like this like extra bond. But with that, right, like we have this belief that like people get adopted in, we've been literally adopted and figuratively adopted right into this family. But then outside of that, sometimes people have like misunderstandings. And so when I was really little, I remember once in church someone saying to me, "Oh, you were like adopted and like not born into this covenant, like born into this promise, but you were adopted into it. Like your blessings are different from mine," which is untrue. We don't believe that.
Mm.
But this one person said that. And it was so like shocking for me as a child to be like, he thinks I'm different. And like I thought, right, like Christ has these ideal values of like loving everyone and being kind and like really understanding. And this man was not it. He
Mm-hmm.
was like not portraying that to me. And so it's very confusing. But like, right, you just like brush it off and he's it's fine. But I think I talked earlier about the girls who were really mean to me,
Yeah.
that they were all church friends. And so my friends outside of church were really nice, but
Mm-hmm.
my friends in church were, or my friends, in like air quotes, in church were sometimes really mean and really exclusive. And so I think that also was really hard for me to be like, I believe, right, that we preach kindness and being kind, but I'm not experiencing it. And so that was really interesting growing up. Like I feel like I had this rocky idea of like, or not rocky, but I had this like twofold idea that people can be and make mistakes and be unkind, but also they can believe the same things I do, which was mind boggling, but also like, oh, that is humanity at its core, right? That we are oppositional and that we believe oppositional things. And so that was, fine. Growing up, I was fine. A little like traumatized, but fine. So I grew up and then I went through life. And I think like it really came down to me feeling like I myself can be understood by those who really care about me, and finding people who understand me, and that brings me closer to God and it brings me closer to Christ. And I felt like that was my saving grace, that like it really doesn't matter about anyone else, but that it is just me. And I feel like we believe that Christ, and I believe that Christ like understands all of our pains and like everything that we experience. And I think as an isolated adoptee, like not isolated, I have a sister, but in my own thoughts, isolated, um, I felt like I could talk to someone and I could like know that I wasn't alone. And I'm not saying that like every night I knew that I was talking to Christ, like a lot. I felt like I was just talking to the air, um, which is fine. But like the idea of like someone is listening to me, or like maybe I'm just like able to express myself in a way where no one's judging me, like that brought me so much comfort. And so that was really cool. And then as I grew up, and like got to adulthood, I like had experienced some microaggressions growing up, right? But I didn't really like think about them because, as we said, I was told, like, I just like was told that everything's the same and I'm the same, and it was fine. So then as I got older and like um post my mission and coming home and like living and trying to be really Asian, I experienced a lot of microaggressions and a lot of racist comments from people inside the church.
Oh, wow.
And it was so hard for
Oh my
me to
gosh.
reconcile, right? Like, you say you love, and this is like the same problem from when I was little, right? Like, you say you love people and you say you have these values, but I'm not feeling it and I do not feel seen or loved. Um, and at the same time, I realized, like, with a more mature brain, right? Like, they are so imperfect, and that my church doesn't pronounce and say that they have perfect people or that they make people perfect, or that like we are all striving for like reaching perfection at some later point. Um, but that I like had pain, and I could sit with it at this point. Like, I could know, like, this is really hard for me. I feel excluded. I'm experiencing these racial things. But I think it also helped me know that, like, I'm not alone in this. Like, other people are also feeling this. And I feel like that really taught me that, like, my faith is not in other people necessarily. I do believe, like, people can do things, but that, like, I have a lot of hope in, like, Christ, and that I can, as he understands me, I can understand other people, if that makes sense. And so, like, feeling alone, feeling like discrimination, feeling racism, feeling that pain, like, I could understand other people. And I felt like over time, I felt better, like sitting in the pain and sitting in the loneliness and sitting in all of these feelings and saying, you know what? Yeah, I do feel this and it's not very fun, but I can understand others and help them not feel this way. Um, and so yeah, I feel like my faith has helped me maybe have like a more empathetic view towards people and a more empathetic view towards society. Like, I get that people are imperfect. I understand that now. And I get that no one's perfect, and that's okay. Like, it is okay with me that my adoptive parents were not perfect, and it's okay that my birth parents weren't perfect. And it's okay that people in my church aren't perfect and people outside the church aren't perfect and everyone's imperfect, and I can like still be at peace with myself. And so I feel like that's how my faith has shaped my journey in helping me like really come to terms and understand myself, understand others, and be at peace.
I'm so in awe of you to find that empathy for other people. And because it must have felt almost hypocritical at times when people, especially within the church, were shooting microaggressions at you and treating you differently whilst preaching love and kindness. And that must be so challenging. But I'm so glad you're able to almost block out the noise and just make sure your relationship with your faith was exactly that. It was just you. And now it seems like, again, I don't want to speak for you, but it seems like you're able to, or I guess then that gives you the power to seek out people who really do hold the same values, but they're the ones who act on them too, whether they're people within the church or in other communities or people you might meet online or just anyone at all. And that must be such an empowering thing, just to be able to go, you know what, this is my faith, these are my beliefs, these are my values, and I can now go and seek those out in the world in whatever way that looks like. And I don't have to associate myself or be around people who technically might be in the same church or in the same space just because we're in the same space. They know the church has taught me that these are my values, which is wonderful. And now I can go and seek this in the world around me.
Yes, yes, yes. That was such a great summary. And I should say, there are a lot of incredible, like wonderful people who are doing great work, right? And who are very kind. And I've like,
Absolutely.
my professors in college are some of the most like influential people in my life, and they have helped me understand race and understand myself and understand diversity and inequality and how to better love people in the world. And so I think there's definitely a mix.
Of
I like
course.
don't want to like bash, but like I
Of
think you said it
course.
well. Like, I have found that I don't have to just find people. Like, there's not just good inside my church. There is good everywhere. And sometimes I need to search other
Mm.
places to feel that and to find that.
That's a lovely way to put it. And as you said, it may be in a way the church represents the outer world. Like there are always everyone's different. Everyone is just different, and we might all be human beings, but we're all going to be so different. And it's up to you to choose what your values are and how you want to kind of take those forward.
I agree. Thank you.
Staying on the similar topic of community, I know you're building a community online, which is really exciting. And I know you talk very
Yes.
openly about your adoption story and your experiences on TikTok. And I'd love to know why you wanted to start sharing your story publicly.
That is such a good question. So, I started in July, like of 2025, and I've always like loved talking, as you can tell. I talk a lot. But I've always really felt like adoption is such a central part of my identity. And I think I was really tired at that point of explaining myself and justifying myself and saying, yeah, this is why I feel this way, or yeah,
Mm-hmm.
this is where I am, or like, this is why I'm in my family. Also, side note, I catch myself all the time now, and I don't think this is bad, but whenever I'm in a new place with my family and there's strangers, immediately I'm like, I'm adopted, so haha.
Interesting.
Like, don't, like, that's why we're
That's so
different.
interesting.
Because I'm trying to avoid like the judgment or the not judgment, but like the justification. Like, I'd rather be upfront about it, and if
Mm-hmm.
they want to have a conversation about adoption, I'm so down to have that.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of them like doing like the 50 question guess of like, where are you from? How did you get to be with your family? Right? I just try to cut it out. Okay, that was my side note. But so because of that, I was like, I wonder if other people like feel this way too. And like what if I could find other people and like make a little group? Like that'd be so fun to like not have to feel like I'm alone. Also along with that though, I have always had this mind of like wanting to like make something and like make money from it, right? Digital marketing, yeah. And so I was like, oh, we'll see if this works out. I could like make money too. So those are my two reasons. And then wait, did you just ask why I started it?
Yeah, perfect. I mean, that was the perfect
That's
answer.
why I started it.
Amazing. And how has that impacted you since starting to share your story online, I should say?
Yes, thank you. I think that it has helped me see that there's a lot of good people out there who need connection, which is incredible. And I could find people like you and your incredible podcast, which is awesome. And I love, love, love seeing the work and the creativity of other adoptees. Like we are not alone. Like we want to share our voices, we want to share our experiences, and now we finally have room and space to, generally. And then I've also seen, right, that like people are awful, and we'll talk about this in a bit, but like people who are uninformed about adoption, who have no relation, no ties, have been taught by society what society thinks is right, a good or an ideal adoptee, an adoptive family, and they comment and they say the most like insane, like unfiltered, unhinged things to me and to other adoptees. And it makes me sad and it makes me mad and it makes me really want to fight even more for other adoptees to be able to share their voice, because I don't think anyone should be in an environment where they want to share something about their experience and people bash on them. So yeah, I've learned both. There's good and there's bad, and both can be true. I'm like, that's my life lesson.
Absolutely. Oh,
Two things can be true at once.
So true. And well, on that, let's pull up some of these delightful comments from really well-informed people who know exactly what they're talking about and have totally the right to be giving you unsolicited advice. So I've basically broken these down into 4 different misconceptions, and
perfect.
There's so much underneath each one. So, so the first one, the idea that as an adoptee, you should be grateful for being adopted because you've been adopted and you've been saved from this terrible third world country and you've been given a new life on a silver platter. So therefore, you have no right to any pain.
Yeah, what?
Obviously.
Yeah, makes
ridiculous.
Sense.
So a couple of these comments, let's have a look. I don't see anything wrong with being told to be grateful that you've been adopted. Right. Interesting start.
Yeah.
The next one. Wow, are people really complaining about getting adopted and not having to spend 18 years in the foster care system? Wild time to be alive. And the third one, just in case you weren't aware of this, you're so privileged to have a family that adopted you, loves you, and to live in America. How do you feel when you see this stuff? Like, genuinely.
Genuinely, I think, wow, you, about this person, have a lot of things that are going on in your life that, like, you need help with. Like, in the kindest way of, like, I think if you're well-balanced, like, you, like, understand, like, that people have different experiences, like, you would not be saying this. So really, genuinely, I think, like, oh my gosh, these people just are, like, in their own heads. They need a lot of compassion and a lot of grace because they, like, do not get it. They need help. So that's like my compassionate side. Then the other thing I think is like, oh my goodness, you have no idea. Like a little bit of like anger, a little bit of like resentment of like, you don't know what you're speaking about and you are the reason so many adoptees don't speak out. Is because they feel like if they say one single thing, then they will be like hounded with all of these messages. Yeah, attacked. And the saddest thing, I think, is that a lot of these people, not a lot, but some of these people, they are parents, and they are like people who make influences in other people's lives, and that adoptive parents can say these things to their children. It's like not just like an online social bubble of like people being obtuse, right? But like parents actually can say these things and be like, I took care of you for this many years, how could you be so ungrateful?
Mm-hmm.
um and it makes me really upset and really like feel for the adoptee and really upset at the adoptive parent or at these people who are like continuing this narrative. And I didn't put this on here, but there are people too, or maybe you have this in a category, so let me know if you do. But a lot of adoptive parents have commented on my post, or potential adoptive parents, and they will say, I've seen your post and now I don't want to adopt. Like if you're
Yeah.
saying these things, like I don't want to anymore. And I'm like, you shouldn't then.
You should.
If that's your
Please
attitude,
don't.
do not. Yes.
On behalf of all
On
adoptees, please don't. We think that's a
Please
fantastic
stay
idea.
away.
Please stay in your home and stop
And
saying this mad stuff. But yeah, that actually is one of the categories later, so we can 100%
Oh, good. Okay.
delve into that.
Let's talk about it.
For sure.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, so on the one that says, you're so privileged to have a family that adopted you, loves you, and to live in America. Again, it goes back to what we were saying. Multiple things can be true at once. And you might have a family that loves you. You might live in America. You might have been adopted. But it doesn't negate the fact you were abandoned by your birth parents. You've had a whole culture and a family taken away from you without your consent. Mm-hmm. How are you meant to feel about that? And how is it that negative feelings about that part of your life mean that this part of your life, oh, you're complaining about that? It's like, no, I don't. At what point did I complain? Like, yes. It just didn't happen. Like, it's crazy.
It's frustrating. And I think you're right. Like, even with the word privilege, like, I know I'm privileged. I know I'm privileged in so many ways. Mm-hmm. But I also know that I have a lot of, what's the word? I'm underprivileged in a lot of ways too, right? Mm-hmm. Minority, woman, right? I don't have my culture. I don't like speak. I look like someone. I experience discrimination. Like, there's other things that I'm not privileged in, a lot that I am privileged in. And I think a lot of these people think that like my one little post is supposed to capture my whole life, right? Mm-hmm. Like, that's not true. And nor is that true of anyone. That like, there is so much behind that. And I think in a lot of these comments, people say you're so ungrateful, or like one comment said like, what would your parents think if they saw this? Like, so rude to them. And I'm like, my parents know I post this. Like, they're totally fine, and they understand that like I have multiple experiences. And so yeah, it's frustrating sometimes.
It's so frustrating. They just don't, and also people don't bother to explore the nuance and really try to understand.
Yes. Also, the other thing is like he's saying you're in America. There's a lot of bad situations in America, right. So that's not necessarily true. Also, that your parents love you, you don't know that. Like my parents, I do come from a very loving family, mm-hmm. but some people get adopted into very abusive homes. And so like exactly. That is not a solution. Adoption is not perfect. It is not like, yeah, this is all better.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of assumptions.
For sure. I mean, it kind of goes into our next point, the misconception that, oh, you're not a victim, so you should really stop complaining. And essentially just minimizing any negative emotion you might express. So some highlights are, oh, poor little victim, charming. The next one is, how can I be a victim and incredibly hurtful to my parents in one go? And then they said, would you rather have been left there? Rude. And then someone says, so imagine you were never adopted and raised in an unloving orphanage. That's so problematic. All of this is so problematic. But the assumption that, first of all, that all orphanages in China are unloving. I don't know if you know much about your orphanage, but mine was incredibly caring, and I can't think of a better place for me to have spent the first 9 months of my life. My nurse was so nurturing, and this is just so incorrect. But I don't know if you if you know much about your orphanage.
I don't know like a ton, but I do know I like could communicate by the end. I was like 2 when I was adopted, so I could talk to the caretaker and like one of the, I think she was an agency worker. So that was really cool. And then every year, at Chinese New Year, they would send me a letter to my adoptive parents' home. Celebrating me and like the connection we had to the orphanage. So like they took a lot of care into like making sure that like I knew I was still connected to them. And then they like, of course, they write a report about how you're doing, and so yeah, I don't know the specifics, but I do know generally like it shows a lot of care.
And yeah, again, the whole, oh, poor little victim. Like, when did you ever say you were a victim? You're allowed to have feelings. You're not allowed to have feelings. It's wild. And yeah, that's wild. And then saying,
It's
and
gross.
how can I be, it's so gross. And then saying, how can I be incredibly hurtful to my parents? At which point did you say, I hate my adopted parents. I'm so angry with my adopted parents. My adopted parents.
Never.
Never. Literally never. And also, even if you had, which I know you haven't, but even if you had, who doesn't complain about their parents every now and then? I'd love to speak to this person and go, have you ever said anything bad about your parents ever? Or do you just have a perfect relationship with mum and dad? I'm fairly sure the answer would be no. I mean, the fact that people feel that they can tell other people how to feel and try to manage their emotions, when no, unacceptable.
And victim shaming. I think you're right. Like, even if I was a victim, right? Like, I do think in some ways adoptees are victims of the system, right? They are not, like, there's so, okay, another book drop. The book, it's called Daughters of the Bamboo Grove by Barbara Demrick. And it just came out in May 2025. And it is incredible. Talks about all the history of adoption in China, talks about trafficking, talks about twins who were separated. It's such a good story. But she's also a journalist. And so she goes into so much detail about like what is happening in this time. And a lot of what was happening, right? Like parents did want to keep, generally, wanted to keep their children with them. And the government, right, would separate them. And then some groups would know that adoption between China and the US was a soft power. And so they would traffic kids to make money. And so, like, yeah, maybe I'm not a victim, but maybe I am of trafficking. And I think, like, I saw this message a couple times, like, oh, now we're equating adoption with trafficking. Like, I'm out. Like, someone literally said that. And I was like, well, yeah. Like, do you know anything about the history of adoption?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know about orphan trains? Do you know, like, can you tell me that you know there's not
like, you're
trafficking
clearly the
in
expert
adoption?
on this.
Yes. And so I'm like, there's so many stories of trafficking, and like, essentially, right, like one party, this is like my extreme view, which people think is extreme, one party is buying another, like buying an object and then owning it in their home, right? Like, that's kind of weird. And like birth certificates are a reflection of like, they look like a car buying thing. Like, they have the parents, the adopted parents' names, they have the child's name. It is like a deed to buy someone. And so I think when people are trying to victim shame, it's like, you, one, don't understand the context, two, you don't actually know my story, and I don't even know my story, so how can you know my story? And three, I think they are just very uncomfortable in their own life with themselves. Like, I think there just must be something that like makes them feel like they can say that someone else is being a victim, which is not true, which I never said. So thank you for my rant. I'll get off my soapbox now.
But then also, even if you think someone is a victim of something, don't make them feel bad. You should be supporting them, or keep your mouth shut. There are the two options.
I like the second one.
Yeah.
Or be nice. Yes.
Or just be
nice.
kind. Just be supportive.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Oh, the misconceptions are wild. And then the next kind of major misconception is essentially people telling you that your identity is wrong or you've got it confused, and essentially just trying to sort of police your race, your view on your race, culture, and belonging. So yeah, one comment, it's so crazy. One said low racial self-esteem. The other one was colonized mind and body is crazy. And then this final person gave you some really lovely advice. You should explore your Chinese roots and move to China, building a marriage with another Chinese person. How do you feel about that? I was going to say too late.
Too late. No, that is just, yeah. I think like, going back, I feel like like I said, if my own parents in my home did not understand what race meant for me, like, there's no way that the world is gonna know that, like, it is so complex for adoptees. Like, there is so much guilt and shame and pressure and discovery and like so like such a range of things that can happen with an adoptee's identity because they are taken from one culture, placed in another, not explained that other culture often, and then expected to inherit this new culture that does not match how they look, and then people complain. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. I think people really miss the mark on like understanding the complexities of adoption in this regard, and especially that man who was like, go marry an Asian man. I'm like, that's not gonna make it better. Why would that make it better? Why would going to China make it better? Like, a lot of this is so internal in how I view the world and how I feel about the world. And I didn't marry my husband because of his race. And I hope he didn't marry me because of my race, right? Like, I hope we married each other because we love each other and we like find attributes that we like about each other. But I think in our society, it just has become so focused on race. And like you said earlier, right? Like, when people see a family, the first thing they think of is these two don't look like the other ones, or this one doesn't look like the parents. We automatically filter by race, right? And so I think that is incorrect. Like, it's just like natural, I get that, but that doesn't mean you have to speak out against it. And it doesn't mean that being in a culture will change it. And so, yeah, that's what makes me laugh and frustrated too.
It is so frustrating. And yeah, I don't know what this person thought was going to happen if you just moved back to China and married a random Chinese person for the sake of marrying them. But then also someone saying just commenting low racial self-esteem. Even if someone did have like low racial whatever that is, whatever they mean by that, that's such a nasty thing to point out. It's like going up to someone and pointing at them and going, this is your biggest insecurity. I'm just going to leave that on the internet for everyone to see and walk away. It's like, what does that achieve?
I've made comments though of like, here's the interesting thing. I think this is like more a telltale of like the internet rather than me. But I did do a post. Someone said something very harmful, like to another person who was commenting on me. But they said, if I had that mentality, then I would go like kill myself, essentially, is what they said. And I said, that is not okay. How could you say that? We never joke about people's lives. Like, that is not acceptable. And the person never commented back.
Just jumping in quickly here, you'll hear us reference the Oxford study. And this is essentially a widely shared myth used online to stereotype Asian women. But we'll unpack it properly in just a moment.
The more I commented on like a lot of comments talked about like the Oxford study about me marrying a white man, right? But the more I responded to people saying, this isn't true, this is discriminatory, this is not nice to say, the more people were like, Oxford, 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 Oxford. Like hundreds of comments were just like, yeah, you're an Oxford study, pretty much. And then when I called it out in another post and I said, tell me, why would you say these things? Like, just like, I want to know, like, very friendly. No one responded. And so I really don't know if it's about like them getting a response or them like, I don't know. I've never posted a mean thing about someone. So like, I'm not in that mindset of like, let me do something unkind to someone.
I mean, people love to feel like they know more than you. Or maybe it gives them some kind of power kick to say something and feel like, well, I've said my piece now. What are you going to do about it? And then like you said, if you try to challenge it, they have nothing to say because they have nothing to say. There's nothing to back up their argument. And with the Oxford study, would you mind giving people like a little overview of what that is or isn't? Because I know there's a lot of misinformation around that and it gets thrown around a lot online. Actually, I can have a little look.
Something interesting about TikTok is that I reported a lot of people and I said, this message is harmful, or this message is like racist, or this message is like discriminatory. And TikTok denied all my claims and left all of the comments. And so I was like, oh, that's so interesting to me that like something is, from my point of view, very discriminatory, very racist, very not okay. And TikTok, but they were like, no, you're fine. Like, these comments are totally fine. And so no comment that I've ever reported on any of my videos has been accepted to actually be blocked or seen as racist. But it just like, for me, continues the idea that like adoptees can't even speak out. And like when something happens, no one cares. Does that make sense? Like, no one is going to say that that's a bad thing.
It makes total sense. It gives people permission to keep saying crazy stuff that's deeply offensive and hurtful. And yeah, no one's there to police it or hold anyone accountable. So it says the Oxford study TikTok myth, misinformation.
thank you.
So it said a viral trend on TikTok and social media often references an Oxford study to harass Asian women in relationships with white men, claiming it proves a preference for white men. According to this source, it says it's fake. The study does not exist. It's a fabricated racist and misogynistic meme that began on TikTok. The origin stems from a joke about the power of the Caucasian male over the Asian female subconscious, and a misunderstanding of actual unrelated media studies. So users sometimes wrongly cite a 2010 study or media analysis, such as those regarding the 1960s film The World of Susie Wong, that actually explores stereotypes of Asian women in Western media, not real life relationships. So basically, it's a crock of shit, and people need to mind their business.
Yes. Cool. And why does it matter? Do you know what I mean? Like, I just think it's so funny people care. And I think you talked about this, right? It's like white men over Asian women. Mm-hmm. This was a crazy comment to me, and you might like talk about this too. But I said something like, I met my husband, and it was like the first time I met someone who like didn't fetishize me for being Asian. And that this comment was like, in quotes, fetishize me for being Asian, close quote. Yeah, unless they make you wear a kimono or Japanese schoolgirl outfit, it's not a fetish. Being attracted to a black-haired woman with almond eyes is a preference, not a fetish. And I was like, and so I responded to this comment, and I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you understood everything that every man has said to me or made me do. Like, sorry, I didn't know that. Like, tell me more about my story, please. It was insane. And then I like looked up, of course, the definition of fetish, and I was like, you're so wrong. Like, you're so wrong. That's so crazy that you're telling me I'm not being fetishized in my own life as an Asian woman. Like,
that's so wild. How dare they tell you how to feel and what's going on? Like, you know what's going on, and B, you know how you feel, and you know when you're being fetishized. And yeah, of course, and no one's saying you can't have physical preferences. But it's extremely problematic when you make it about race, because then you're saying everyone within that bracket is just this stereotype, and it's a massive generalization. And you're not seeing us as people; you're seeing us as this thing for you to consume. How can people not see that's problematic?
Gross, right?
Gross. Yeah. Get in the bin. That's vile.
I have to add to this too. This is so funny. I found this. This is mentioned in the book Daughters of the Bamboo Grove. Everyone should listen to it. It's so good. But this is adding with fetishization. But in the book, they talk about at some hotels, and you might have one of these too. I don't know. Did your parents go to the White Swan Hotel?
Oh, I'll have to ask them.
I was hearing about it, and they were like, oh yeah, and then like Barbie like partnered with or like this hotel, the White Swan Hotel, partnered with Mattel and said, make us a Barbie. And so, here, I'll show you. I don't know if anyone else can see this. You can find them online. But they made and put on every bed a white Barbie doll holding a little Asian adoptee girl.
Oh, Christ.
As like their little like token that they get to take home. Their little object or hand purse. Yes! And my mom like still has it. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, talk about objectification, talk about fetishizing, talk about like literally buying and selling children in a Mattel Barbie doll. That's crazy. But every single person who went to this hotel had one of these dolls on the bed to take home with them as a souvenir.
That's so wild.
It's crazy. Here's the even more interesting thing. My sister had no comment. She didn't think it was crazy. And I was like, yeah, we do view adoption very differently.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
I get overexcited about it being crazy.
But it is that's so problematic. Oh my goodness. And actually, so this kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, but out of the other quotes you sent, another quite key thing was that people are saying, oh well, adoption's harmful, and I'm not going to adopt him overseas because of X, Y, and Z. And I know a lot of people don't believe that transracial adoption is a good thing, and I completely understand and respect the reasons why. However, I feel like these reasons are not those reasons. So first quote is, not in capital letters, adopt interracially, many exclamation marks. the adoptee will hate and resent you. The next one is I used to adopt so bad. I assume they mean want to adopt. But now seeing how adoptive children feel, I think it's better not to. I think I'll stick to being a foster parent. And then the other one was honest question, is there a way for adoptive parents to mitigate these, I'm assuming, negative feelings for their child? I want to foster or adopt in the future, but I'm worried I won't be able to save them from feeling like this. It honestly makes me want to stay away from fostering and adopting. No matter how much I want to help, I'd be contributing to or causing a child's trauma in the way you listed. Despite my best intentions, I'd be part of a broken system and would do more harm than good. So on the first one, the adoptee will hate and resent you. The fact they've managed to get that from a post where you simply expressed feelings with absolutely no mention of parents or negative feelings towards parents whatsoever, and the fact they've taken that from that is quite frankly wild. But again, how did you feel reading all those?
I think these ones were especially hard because I think how do I put this? I don't want to be the reason a child who is genuinely in need of a home and a family who is good to them and loves them and all these things, I don't want to be the reason that doesn't happen. On the other hand, I don't think these people, I think some of them do have good intentions. I don't think all of them do. And I don't think all of them should be adopting at this point with their mindset. And so I just feel a lot of sadness that, like, these people seem to be asking me genuine questions, and they have been taught so much that adoptees, right, going back to that ideal adoptees need to be quiet, need to be grateful, need to just submit. And they're going into it like that. So then when they see an adoptee who's not doing that, that it's threatening to them, that for me, like we said, is not an ideal adoptive parent. They are not open to an adoptee being a child and having whatever experiences that they want. And so in my response to these people, I really was like, well, like, yes, if this is not it for you, if your child is going to have feelings and you're not ready for it, then do not adopt. You are not ready to help this child emotionally, socially develop in the ways that they need to develop to be a flourishing, like, happy child. But two, if you really, really want to adopt, then there's a lot of work that you've got to do. I think a lot of these comments reflect parents thinking about their own feelings and their own experience and their own, like, how other people are going to view them, and that is not correct. That is not how you should view any parenting. You do not parent for you unless you do, and then that's, you should work that out with the therapist maybe. But you should be parenting for your children. Like, you are doing this to help other lives and other people. This is like the most selfless place that you should be, and the most selfless thing you should do. No, I guess I shouldn't say should. Could. I don't want to tell people what they can and can't do, because then I'm like them. So I think that, like, yeah, if you're really seriously thinking about this, like, and I've said this to a couple people, I'm like, DM me if you really have questions. But, like, it is a whole mindset shift. Like, adoption is a thing. It is a way to make a family if you really want to. But it is not so that you can be altruistic and that you can think good and highly of yourself and that you're saving people. Like, that is not the point of adoption. The point of adoption is to create a safe home for a child who does not have safety, because we know you cannot develop and flourish if you if you don't have stability and safety in your home. And that's the point. Like, the point really isn't about you at all. And so I think, yeah, taking a lot of time to think for yourself, like, why am I doing this? What is the point? In addition to this, like, I had this experience literally like a week ago. I went to go donate plasma to make money for my college life. But while I was there, I was, like, looking up books for my class. I started a conversation with the person who was, like, there to help. And I told him I was studying adoption, doing my master's program. And he was like, oh, interesting. Like, I've always wanted to have my own kids and then adopt some after. Like, I think it'd be good to help a little kid out and etc. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is everywhere. Like, people really think, like, one, it's, if anyone doesn't know, it is a microaggression to say I want my own kids and then to adopt. Like, that's saying, right, that your adopted kids are not your own kids, and that biological kids always trump adopted kids, right? So not cool, or foster kids. And then two, this idea that like you're saving people. And so I really like, I was like, oh, you should really think about it. Like, my whole spiel of like, this is a lot more complicated than you think. But I think people really do think that a lot. That like I experience this often where people tell me, right, I want my own kids and then I want to adopt. And then if they see something negative, then they're like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, if you can't do that, then don't sign up for it. Because that's what it is. It comes with trauma. It comes with hardship. And I think there's a lot of things, sorry, this is such a long rant. But I think that there's also a lot of things that like occur in an adoptee's life, right? The primal wound that's really hard to work through. And I think you said this, like adoptees just need space to process that. But when adoptive parents make it about themselves, they can't give their child that space. And it really harms the adoptee. But like that's not the parent's fault. Like there's a lot of things I've learned that like are not my adoptive parents' fault at all. It is just a product of being adopted, and that is a traumatic experience. But you just need space to process that. And if you don't have that, then you have a lot more things that you need to work through in your adulthood.
Absolutely.
I'm done. Sorry.
No, don't. Oh my God, don't apologize at all. You made some really brilliant points. And yeah, I mean, just looking at these comments again, it is very much, as you said, focused on the parents. Like, oh, they'll hate and resent you, and I don't want to be the reason why. And even though I had quite a strong reaction to them at the beginning, but I'm sure these comments aren't said with malintent, and I'm sure they are, well, especially the last one. I can see the person really wants to actually genuinely make sure they're not going to be a hindrance in their child's life. And I do appreciate that. But I think at the same time, it does still show a wider level of ignorance, for lack of a better word, about the complexities of adoption. And then also it's interesting how people don't seem to talk about biological children in the same way. And adoptees are not allowed to feel any kind of negative emotion because, oh my God, they're difficult. It's going to be so difficult. And oh no, I don't want to have to handle that. And they're going to feel this and they're going to feel that. And they might do this, they might do that. But then the same thing can be said for literally any child that's brought into this world. Any child can be difficult. Every child will have difficult emotions to manage at one time or another. Ours might be because we're adopted. Others might be for different reasons. But as a parent, surely it's your job to hold space for whatever your child is feeling and let them know that that's okay. And if it was a biological child that was, I don't know, angry with their mum or upset, no one's going to go, oh, that child's so ungrateful. Oh, and then also when children are born, no one says to those children, oh, I bet you're so grateful that you were born. So that'd be so weird. Like you would just not.
It's icky. Yeah,
it's icky. You just wouldn't say that. And it also feels like there's quite a lot of fear around, well, from these particular comments anyway, around adopting, and the fear of it being difficult and the fear of how it's going to affect the parents. And because there is this fear, and I feel like adoption, especially overseas adoption, is often presented as wholly good or wholly bad. And it's either this amazing thing where you've gone and saved a child and it's so beautiful, or it's a thing of, oh no, they're a problem child, it's so complicated, it's so difficult, they're not really your child. And it's quite hard to find stories or perspectives that just show the middle ground or just show different perspectives. And it is often these two extremes. Like, I don't know how you feel about that, or if some of the comments people have left have kind of reflected that.
Yes, yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that there is this feeling that like, and I've heard this in other books, but that children adopted internationally are a blank slate, and that they should be like there's nothing there, and that any of their experiences before they were adopted just like don't exist. And then once children start talking about that, they're like, no, you can't bring that up. Like that's not that's not okay. And I think that I've heard that a lot, that like really like they just like a lot of comments negate that I had a life before, or like anytime I bring anything up about an orphanage, they're like, well, don't be ungrateful, like would you rather be in the street, like what's your solution? And I'm like, don't ask me my solution, I'm just sharing my feelings. But people forget that like, oh yeah, these kids didn't just pop out of air, like they came from somewhere, they have their own histories, they have their own trauma that their body remembers, but people don't know that.
I think it's so great that you have your platform and you're sharing a really honest perspective about adoption. And please keep doing it because it's so wonderful. And so is your handle, is it at Adoption Literate Anna?
Yes, I think so. I don't actually know, but yes.
I'll double check it as Anna with 2 N's because everyone should follow you because it's brilliant.
I will double check.
No, of course. Kind of off the back of all of this, is there anything particular that you wish more people knew about adoption?
Yeah, everything. I think I wish people knew, like, if I was to say one thing, I think I wish people knew that adoption is not a one-time event, but that it is continuous throughout an adoptee's life, whether or not they want to recognize that. And I think that would do a lot to help people understand that, like, oh yeah, there's more layers to this and more complexity than just this happened. Like, you have to admit that there is stuff, and it changes throughout an adoptee's life, right? Because it is just a continual part of their identity. So that's probably my biggest thing.
It's a really good point. And I think it's so easy to forget that just because you might not talk or think about adoption at a certain point in your life, it doesn't make it any less significant, and it doesn't make your feelings around it less valid if they pop up, say, in a few years' time. And kind of going back to misconceptions, having challenging feelings around adoption and acknowledging those doesn't cancel out anything positive that's happened, and doesn't cancel out the love you might have for your family and the life you have if you do. So many things can be true at once. And I'm so glad we have a chance to actually have this conversation and just keep on saying it, and hopefully people will listen to it, and hopefully it'll sink in.
Listen!
Yeah.
Yes.
We're trying to do good.
Yes.
And do you have any advice for any other, well, I was going to say adoptees, but people kind of navigating belonging and identity in the world?
I think allowing yourself to have a range of emotions is really important. I think, like, and knowing that, like, it will change. I just remember, right, like, my first dives into adoption and adoption history. I did a lot of reading, like, I've done a lot of reading and thinking. But the first year, I was, like, mad, like, really upset, frustrated to the point that, like, at some points I didn't want to go see my adopted parents. Like, I get that, and I get how, like, some adopted children feel like when they want to be estranged. Like, I just felt so upset and so hurt and so, like, misunderstood, and I didn't think it would end. Like, I really thought that, like, this is gonna be a big hard point. And so for a long time I actually didn't talk about adoption and race with my parents because I knew they didn't understand and that there was a gap, and it really hurt me. But there was so much change over time. Like, as I continued to learn, as I continued to, like, let myself feel and, like, have grace for myself and a more broad understanding of what happens for birth parents and for adoptive parents and for, like, other things, like being able to hold two truths for myself but also for them, I came to, like, such a place of peace and an understanding of, like, they aren't perfect, but that's okay, and I'm not perfect, and that's okay, and that a lot's not their fault and some is, and a lot is not my fault and some is, right? Like, that we share equal blame and goodness and hardship because it's, like, a relationship. It is a family relationship. But I don't think at that time, like a year ago, I don't think I'd feel as at peace with it ever, but as I do now. And I think I feel and find a lot of peace with how things are. And I really, like, my mom has done work too and has, like, learned a lot and heard a lot of adoption stories. And so now when we talk, she's like, let me tell you about this person I found who's adopted, and, like,
Aww.
telling me about their story. And it's really incredible to see, like, things do change. You've got to let yourself, though, feel the feels, and then let yourself change and know that there is room for it.
That's really beautiful advice. Thank you. And are there any final thoughts you'd like to leave people with?
This is for all people of color, when someone tells, or you ask someone where they're from and they tell you where they're from, do not ask further. Just let it be. If they want to tell you, they'll tell you. And if they want to tell you their adoption story, they'll tell you. But, like, you are not entitled to anyone's story. You are not entitled to anyone's background, anyone's history. Like, let them do it if they want to. And if they don't feel safe, they won't. So be a safe person. Yeah, that's it.
The perfect note to end on. But thank you so much for chatting to me. You have no idea how much it means, and it's been so wonderful to talk and get your perspective on things. So yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Of course, thank you. I am so honored. I think I worked out a lot of things in this, so thank you.
Oh, bless you. That's so
Keep
sweet.
doing it.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
no,
so
I
lovely
really
for you to
appreciate
say.
it. Yeah. No, I hope you continue your work and you continue to bless the lives of other adoptees. You're amazing.
That's very kind of you. So are you. I think what really stands out from this conversation is that adoption isn't something you just process once. It's something that continues to evolve over time, along with your identity. And there's no single way to feel about it. There's space for love and appreciation, but also for confusion, frustration, or loss. And all those things can coexist. Conversations like this are important because they challenge the simplified narratives we often hear about adoption and make space for something much more honest and real. And if this episode resonated with you, feel free to share it with someone who might need to hear it. We post new episodes every other Tuesday, and you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Not Made in China Podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.